I vacillated for like 10 seconds deciding which way I wanted to go. And if I had chosen the street, I wouldn't have seen him. And if I had been a second later, I wouldn't have seen him.
When did TV become a major goal for you?
So I was kind of peeking around the corner looking at TV, starting around 07, 08. I mentioned in my book, one of my buddies, Seeth Mann, was a director friend who had gone from indie films to television. And so I was like, okay, like he's a filmmaker to me, and he's going to TV, and I know him personally. He's a cool guy, so maybe there's something there. Maybe it's not the place where storytellers go to die, because in the past people just TV, and so I kind of always had my eye on him. And it's funny too, because there's like, I'm not a mystical kind of person, but I guess I'm spiritual. And I often can't help but remark on like the kismet of events sometimes. And I was walking down Melrose. I had parked on Melrose to go somewhere. And I was like, oh, there's like something shooting. And they had like all their equipment and like, blocking this place of business or whatever. And I was like, do I want to walk down Melrose, or do I want to walk through the alley behind? Alley, Melrose. And then I was like, alley. And so I walked down the alley, and out of the corner of my eye, I see the back of his head.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wait, is that you? I yelled his name, and he turned around. I was like, yo, that's crazy. I hadn't seen him in years. And just like I vacillated for like 10 seconds deciding which way I wanted to go. And if I had chosen the street, I wouldn't have seen him. And if I had been a second later, I wouldn't have seen him.
Wow.
And then that time, this must have been 2012. And he was like, oh, well, you should apply for this HBO directing program. So I applied and I didn't get in, but like I got a little bit closer. I had to get a DGA, director recommendation. And I was able to kind of finagle that. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of getting closer, even though I'm still like on the outskirts. And so, I applied to every program that existed. And in 2015, after my short that I made, which was called BlackCard, premiered at this film festival in New York that was part of HBO, the gentleman who runs the Sony program, Brett King, was at the screening and came up to me and was like, you should apply. And I was like, all right, well, you got it. And so, of course, it was like due for the next day, with letters of recommendation, notary public, and like an essay. And I was like, cool. I've been at the wire before. And I got into the Sony program in the fall of 2015. And that was when, around that time, I kind of talked a lot earlier about expectation. And I think, the thing to kind of take away, at least as far as how I think about it, is like, I'll do a thing. I know that it can potentially do all of these things, like maybe help me get into TV, or maybe, get me an agent or a manager. But then I kind of, while I know they exist, and while I'll do my best to create it in a way that helps me achieve that, then I kind of, in my mind, back away from that, because I don't want that to be the only way to put value on what I do with it. And so this short film was very much that. It was like, all right, I'm gonna call my actor friends. If there's anyone I know that can, maybe is more visible as an actor than somebody else, like maybe I'll see if they'll do me a favor. I'll put the money where it matters on screen, and in a perfect world, it'll help me get into TV, but also I know that won't happen. I also know that's not a guarantee. I know it'll be a guarantee for me to make this short, look at it and say, okay, this is like where my talent lies when no one's telling me what to do and I'm making it for myself. And so that alone will be something that I'll really get value from, because then I can learn and pivot again. But it did the thing that I had hoped for, and it got me into these, it got me on the radar of people in the business of making TV. And so I did the Sony program, 2015. I did the HBO program, 2016. I did the Disney ABC program, 2016 to 2018. And I did the NBCU program in 2016. And through the relationships I was building, I was shadowing on shows, observing other directors, and, making sure that I was building a network of folks who were aware of me and what my goal was, which was to direct single camera comedy.
And sorry, just a side note here. You mentioned your book. Can I just see your book for a second?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is the book. This photo was actually taken on one of my return trips from LA back to New York after I'd moved out here. And a buddy of mine, Eric Van Selfton, took it before we got oysters, because that was our ritual.
It's a great photo.
Thank you. But yes, Transitions, A Director's Journey and Motivational Handbook. And it's, for me, it's the book that I wish I could have read along the journey of the 17 years to getting paid for narrative directing. And I distinguish that because I made my own films. I did client work for people, but that was never someone saying, we want to hire you to direct this like narrative film or narrative TV show, and tell our story in this kind of way with your skill set. So, it's a mixture of how-to, self-help, and inspiration. And I think it's useful for anybody in a creative field, but it's particularly tailored for directors.
You said you wish you'd had that book yourself when you were just starting out. Was there any tough love advice that you have in that book that you wish somebody had given you, that maybe it doesn't always sit well, but then you think about it and you're like, yeah, it applies?
I don't know if I have tough love in the book. I think it's, I'd have to think about that, because I'm almost compelled to revisit my definition of tough love. But, I feel like what I found I responded to in the books that I read was someone walking me through undeniable facts, right? So, for instance, like in the book, I talk about going to the Robert McKee seminar, and people have a lot of opinions on it. But on the third day, he walks through, or at least when I took the course, scene by scene analysis of Casablanca, which is one of my favorite films. And so you walk through it, you break it down, and then for me, what that did was like, well, at the conclusion of this intricate breakdown of something where I'm nodding my head for 5 hours, like, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, that's great. That's smart. I can't go back to my script and where it doesn't have those things that I know work, I can't say it's good enough. You know what I mean? Like, I have to now work on my script and get it to the point where whatever I'm trying to do with this story matches the execution of those things in a Casablanca, And I think in the book, the things that I talk about are like, if we agree that these are the things, then how do we make sure that we, as artists and as business people, execute on those things? So like, I even talk a lot about like the technique and the psychology of the job. Like, it doesn't matter if you make the best shot list in the world, if you can't navigate the personalities that come out of the trailer and out of the office and out of the van every day, then you're not going to get 1/3 of that shot list, and nobody's going to remember what you had planned, you know? So kind of just getting into the nitty gritty of that, and maybe opening the reader's eyes to those things more so than like, you know, maybe that's my version of tough love.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like some tough love.
Yeah, maybe
advice.
it is.
I like that though.
You know, it is. I think of like Whiplash and
or Scared Straight.
Yeah, like I'm not like, you know, throwing cameras at people.